I'm John Sherman, and I'd like to welcome you to Sun on Sports. We'd like to welcome our regular viewers and the Armed Forces viewers that we have with us. To my right is Mr. Mike Shaughnessy. He's our sports editor down south of the river. Greg Kleven. He's been with me for 35, 36 years, give or take a few days.
What a punishment. I can't take this any longer.
A long national nightmare.
And with us over here to my far left is Mr. Nick Clark, who's our sports editor up north. Let's get on to the real story, which is that big upcoming matchup February 3rd at Cooper High School between two teams that are undefeated at this point, Cooper and Hopkins. Nick, how about that game? You're going to be there. You're going to get in the side door, so you don't have to fight your way through the crowd, but you're going to be right there in the front row.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about the atmosphere that was going to be inside Sibley High School when Cooper went there, and it's going to be much of the same when Hopkins went there. It's going to be much of the same when Hopkins goes to Robbinsdale Cooper here on February 3rd. It's a Tuesday night. Tip off at 7:15. Like you said, two undefeated teams, both kind of led by a couple stars that are going to go to the University of Minnesota. Royce White for Hopkins, Rodney Williams Jr. for Cooper. It's going to be electric in there, but it might only be electric for 5 minutes. So what Hopkins has been able to do so far this year to some teams, it's sometimes it's not even fair. It seems like
is Tubby going to be there?
Tubby will be there. I can promise you that.
Oh, what a coach! We got to get in that practice facility.
Yeah. No, but Cooper's in a need to hit shots to hang around. If they're off at all, they're going to have some issues. Hopkins can score from all 5 spots on the floor, and it seems like with whether it's their first team or their second team, there's obviously a drop off, but there's not as much as some teams go through. But Cooper's got a fantastic starting 5. They haven't really been pushed much this year. Cooper, I'm talking about. Spring Lake Park gave them a game the other night, but they needed to hit 17 three-pointers to do it, and Cooper was still able to win by 5. They beat Eden Prairie by 7 at the Target Center shootout early January in a game that they were really in control of. Could have won by, they were up by 18 at one point in the second half, and then Eden Prairie made a late run just to make the score look good. It was really not that close. And we'll see. This is a big game for Cooper in terms of section seeding. Because suddenly with what Osseo has been able to do, staying undefeated might be something that they need to do to lock up that number 1 seed. Osseo lost its first game of the year to Henry Sibley, haven't lost since, and taking a peek at their schedule this morning, there might not be another loss on there. Osseo has been awfully impressive. They're winning by about 20 a night right now, and they just blew out Wayzata last week. And they came off a stretch of 5 straight home games where they won by like an average of 26 points a night. They hit the road for some games here, but the Northwest Suburban, I think, as a whole is down. And so anybody in that conference, I just don't see anybody in that conference that can push Osseo. So what I'm saying is there's a very good chance Osseo is going to finish with just the 1 loss. Cooper, if they lose this game, they won't be able to drop another one in order to lock up that number 1 seed.
Hopkins by 25 points.
And I don't know about that. Not in that gym.
Hopkins will be so pumped for that game. You know that.
Yeah, I know, and Cooper will too. I can't see it in that gym. Who knows? I'm not going to throw out a prediction out there. I don't think Cooper could beat them. I think it'll be closer than 25. But Cooper is, they don't get a lot of respect, I guess, or they're not in these conversations when people talk about the top teams.
They play better defense than some of these other.
They do, and they're so well coached right now. It's a whole different team under Dave Johnson than it was under Kurt Pauley. They play together. They share the ball. They get up and down the floor. So we'll see. I know Hopkins starts. We've talked about Hopkins endlessly on this show.
Scary.
Yeah, 4 D1 kids, possibly 5 if Marcus finds a home. It's just we haven't seen anything like that in the state of Minnesota. Maybe ever.
Since '68, like we said in last week's show, and we had a lot of people call and they agreed with us, John. That
1968 Edina.
We're living in the past.
Good team.
Yeah, living in the past, yeah. That was 10 years before I was born.
Hopkins is without a doubt. Henry Sibley's been blowing people out, and Hopkins took care of them by 11.
You're right. And I think Henry Sibley and Cooper are fairly equal. some people from other media outlets might not give Cooper that edge. But I sat there. I think I sat next to you for that game last year in the state semifinals, and it was a tie game with 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
And Henry Sibley, did graduate some key parts off that team. Cooper didn't lose anything. So I think maybe that gap may have narrowed. We very may well see that in that same game again. In late March this year when they seed that tournament because
Could be semifinals, second versus
Could
third
be.
seed.
Could be. Granted, Cooper's gonna have his hands full getting out of its section though, because like I said, Osseo is playing really well right now. So
It's either going to be Henry Sibley versus Cooper or Henry Sibley versus
Osseo.
Osseo in those semifinals.